실패. 실패.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Welcome to Straight Talk, a place where we dot the I's and cross the T's with your host, the Liquid Monkey, and my two recurring guests, Professor Redbill, a man who knows his way around international intrigue, and Polish Gusano, a young man navigating the treacherous world of American college campuses. Gentlemen, thank you and be welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First order of business, please don't forget to like and subscribe so we can grow and provide you with a better service. Today, we shall start with the latest news of international intrigue and world, the death of 100-year-old Henry Kissinger. For those who don't know, Henry Kissinger was a very, very influential man. He was born in 1923, of course. He was a German-American diplomat, political scientist, and geopolitical consultant. He served in the United States Secretary as National Security Advisor in the administrations of President Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford from 1969 to 1977, shaping American foreign policy during the Cold War. He was born to a Jewish family, and he fled Nazi Germany with his family in 1938, settling in New York City. He joined the Harvard faculty specializing in international relations and nuclear strategy. He was also served in the U.S. during World War II, attaining the rank of captain. Of course, his key accomplishments, he pioneered the policy of detente with the Soviet Union, leading to arms control agreements and increased communication. He orchestrated an opening of relations with China, culminating in President Nixon's historic visit to Beijing in 1972. And he negotiated a ceasefire in Vietnam in 1973, though it ultimately proved unsuccessful. And of course, lastly, he played a key role in mediating the Yom Kippur War between Israel and Egypt in 1973. This man I would dare to say that he was one of the men who shaped the 20th century. Josh, what are your opinions about this matter?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a very key political figure in the United States historically, in international relations as well as domestic. He's made a he's accomplished a lot of things over his lifetime. Um, yeah, I mean, you pretty much explained his background and history quite well. Yeah, there's nothing really I can add.
Punish Gusano, do you think? I mean, did you in the college campuses? Did you hear any news or any thoughts regarding his passing in your environment?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I saw it on social media, obviously, and on my college campus specifically. Yeah, some people brought it up in class. But the thing is, dude, Zoomers and most Zoomers don't even know who that guy was. Um, it's irrelevant. I mean, the people that know who Henry Kissinger was are like super politically invested individuals that are just into that stuff anyways. Majority of people you ask, honestly, in the United States, who Henry Kissinger is, they don't even they've heard of him in history class. They don't know who he is. They don't know who he's Secretary of State. Specifically during some of the biggest conflicts the U.S. got involved in during the Cold War, Angola, Cambodia. So yeah, I mean, I heard about it. I heard about his passing. I was actually surprised. I forgot he was even still alive. I honestly thought that guy was dead. It was
Yeah.
shocked to me that he's even still kicking. But hey, man, good for him, I guess.
Well, dying at the age of 100 years old is no small feat. I wish I was. I mean, I don't want to. I'm 42, but I wish I could live life and enjoy it until my hundreds. At any rate, it's interesting to understand that he was a very key player in the relationship between Jewish lobbies and the Israeli lobbies and the United States liaisons and relationship. What can you tell me about it, Josh?
No, I mean, like I said, he had a very big influence in the U.S. government policy making. I believe he was a dual party influencer, so like he had influence over the Democrat and the Republican Party, and he had a lot of connections in Washington as well as in Israel. So he's a well connected guy. I mean, like some say that he was actually the backbone of U.S. policy in the last 20-30 years.
Imagine that. I understand as a savvy man in the in the relationship between Israel and the United States. What's your opinion about this individual, dear Ponish Gusano? Ponish Gusano, are you there?
The Yeah, I mean, I agree with Josh. I mean, Henry Kissinger fundamentally ushered America into the globalist empire that it really was. That guy had his fingers. You could bet $1 million he had his fingers in every single international affair the Americans and honestly the West has had its fingers in for the last 50 years. That guy fundamentally was the father of the modern international policy that the United States follows. Every current Secretary of State follows his lead, has followed his lead since he stepped down from the position. Um, like Josh says, his control over both parties it was unilateral. They did what he said.
You would
Henry
you
Kissinger was not a guy you said no to. There was no president in the last 40 years that has said no to him or his policymakers. Henry Kissinger is probably the
Yeah.
most he's probably one of the most influential politicians in American history. He might just straight up be the most influential. He turned America into what it is now, for better or worse, whatever you think about it. But what America presents as on the world stage is single-handedly his doing. The economy, not just the
Yeah.
military, the economy, the society. He touched every aspect.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
oh, go ahead.
yeah, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, yeah, he was influential, like I said, in a lot of different policies that went through, mostly through the POTUS or the President of the United States, the administrations. He had a lot of influence directly to the president, and a lot of administrations. He was very heavily influential, I believe, in the Nixon administration and Bush GW administration. I think he was. I'm drawing a fog here. Yeah, continue. Sorry, what were you going to ask?
I believe there he had something to do with. Of course, he had, but maybe for the sake of illustration, I believe he has something to do with the Bay of Pigs incidents in the
Oh,
Cuban
yeah.
Missile Crisis, and of course the Vietnam War. Well, when the United States took over after the fall of France's Indochina. So, I mean, I would wonder, as a political analyst and political scientist, as a man who knows more than me, what do you think was his intentions of asserting not himself, but asserting United States in its influence in the Southeast Asia?
Well, Henry Kissinger was really, like most globalists, post World War II. I forget the name of the initiative. It was something, to the effect of, bringing the world into a new age, post monarchy, post authoritarianism, right? With the fall of the German Reich, outside of the Soviet Union, there really wasn't any further like strong authoritarian nation states or any type, even confederations like the Soviet Union outside of them. And their struggle was to basically fully democratize the world, not to its own effect, but with America leading the direction. They viewed the American model as the best. They viewed the American citizen as the ideal cog in this future. And Henry Kissinger was basically the gunman that was going to make that happen. There was a lot of people around him that influenced him, and that agreed with him. It wasn't really like manipulation. He was fully for it. Um, Obviously, the one of the biggest things that Henry Kissinger did was, like we were talking about earlier, was reel in both parties. First thing he did was, he basically grabbed the left wing, settled them down, and made them war hawks. There's a reason that a lot of the Democrats in the 60s and 70s became more pro war. And another thing he did was go into the Republican Party and clean out all the paleo conservatives who wanted isolationism, such as Buchanan and all these other old conservatives. He kicked them out and created the new, more globalist, internationalist wing of the Republican Party. And the first figurehead for that was George Bush, the father, not the son, and of
Yeah.
course the idol of the GOP, Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was Henry Kissinger's model Republican. There's a reason the GOP idolizes him. There's no other word for it. They literally hold every candidate up to his standard. He is the father of the modern GOP. And people, a lot of boomers especially, love to say Ronald Reagan was a super conservative. Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million illegal immigrants. Is that a conservative value? I mean, it's what a coincidence. Ronald Reagan was one of the worst spenders in terms of budgets in American history. The Reagan Doctrine was one of the most expensive doctrines ever implemented in American history. And I'm not just talking about the industrial war complex. It's much more than that. Ronald Reagan was a perfect example of what Henry Kissinger envisioned the Republican Party to be, and people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden included, are the are the students of his view for the Democrats.
Yeah, I totally
What do
agree
you
with
think?
that. Go
Of
ahead.
course. What do you think was Henry Kissinger's dream end goal for United States now that he just passed? Would you say that in this time he would be looking from infinity at his creation and be satisfied?
Ask it again. Sorry.
This
Clarify
is
it.
the thing. I mean, what do you think? Coming from his background as a young Jewish boy in that suffered the firsthand that suffered the discrimination of Nazi Germany, and then he came to the United States and served in the World War and ended up gaining the rank of captain. When he just started growing into the world and seeing the world in a more mature perspective, what do you think this is pure speculation, but just for the sake of argument, what do you think was his end goal, his dream, his vision for the United States and the world? Because now that you mention it, I would say that Henry Kissinger was the ultimate super spy. Um, what do you think was his end game for the world?
I mean, the thing is that he, I think he had political ambitions. Like I said, most military, especially officers, they're groomed to be leaders. I mean, one of the main things that they teach you in officer candidate school is to become a leader. You know what I mean? So that from a leadership perspective, naturally, people like ex-military generally either seek to go into the private sector, which is they start businesses, run a small business, or even work as CEOs. There's the former CEO or the CEO of Budweiser, for instance, is an ex military officer. You see a lot of them go into politics as governors and heads of state. I mean that's the thing. I mean, I think it naturally, as you know, having a military background, and he was natural instinct to go into politics, but not necessarily as a politician. And I think the stigmata, the fact that he's Jewish, and during this time in the civil rights movement, there still is a lot of like he said, discrimination in the United States towards Jews and African Americans and so forth. I think that he was more. I think he felt that he had a better way of contributing to policy as a as an aide, as someone who to give expert advice on geopolitical issues. And I mean, if you do a simple Google search, I mean, you'll see that he had significant influence over the Nixon administration. He was Nixon's like right hand man. Gave a lot of very useful policy advice and things of that nature.
According to you, you mentioned. Do you remember that some days ago, some transmissions ago, you were mentioning the concept of leaders. In your perspective, what kind of leader was Henry Kissinger?
I haven't really done much study as far as him as a leader. I mean, right now I have, I'm doing extensive research on mostly presidents and business leaders. But I mean, from what I understand and what you guys discussed, it sounds like he's probably more of a transformational leader, leadership style, if not maybe an authentic leadership style. And the reason why is basically because he was able to work with both political parties, and he was very influential in the government, and that type of leader is usually associated with a transformational or an authentic leader. They have a vision, and that vision parallels with the people that they're trying to support and work with, and their team members, their team I guess team orientated, so they try to get everybody to contribute and towards a common goal.
I would assume that I would imagine that he would see policies as business to be made. So he actually approached both parties in their cosmovisions and just approached them to offer them something they could use if they would give him something I could use. Not instead of the currency would be policy instead of money.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, in Washington, the way, I mean, now we're in a clown world, so it may work different than what I learned in college, or at least when I was, when I was working as an intern in politics, and it may work differently now, but traditionally, there was a lot of, I guess, aisle negotiations between party members, between Democrats and Republicans, and there would be bills that they want to pass, or like they had certain policies they were interested in, and they would at least negotiate with some Democrats. And the thing is, how Washington works. Like I said, with committees, you have a bunch of little committees and subcommittees. Yeah, you're fine. Based on economic, defense, all kinds of different issues within the government, and generally these these political leaders, they will go on. The first thing they're going to do is get on a committee or subcommittee, and so they can get influence. And the main thing is like when lobbyists came into it, then they started getting in these committees, and the lobbyist support for the reelection because of the connections they get through private sector and other types of projects. So generally, to kind of simplify it, sorry, there was a lot of cross aisle communication, and I wouldn't necessarily say deals or anything like that, but it's just like, hey, I've got this I want to try to pass. I know you got a bill through committee that you want to get passed. I can agree with that. We can agree on that. Let's go ahead. If you can vote and support my bill, I will later on, when that comes up before a vote, I'll vote on it as well. And that's how they wheel and deal in DC. That's how you should do it. That's an effective way to get policy passed. Because policies take a long time in DC, and that's the reason why. Not to go off on another in the weeds or another tangent, but that's the reason why the executive order has become so widely used and abused in the last 3 administrations, because Congress takes a long time, because they really want to finite and comb through a lot of the issues in the bill and policies. And there's a lot of politicians and a lot of special interests that want to make sure that they're heard and that they're taken care of in those policies, and how that affects the overall economy and the political structure. There's actually a video that you're bringing this up. I think was it Posada? You got that, brother? The video of Distinguished Gentleman about DC when Eddie Murphy goes into DC for the first time and he meets the lobbyist. If you could play that,
Yeah.
that would basically explain how DC works. In a
I
nutshell.
don't have it on me as of right now.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, we could show it later, but like I said,
What's
it's
the name of the movie?
the name
What
of the
is-
movie is Distinguished Gentleman, starring Eddie Murphy. And when he's like a con man that basically uses name recognition, and for people that have these names, like family names like Bush or Clinton or whatever, they get their name on the ballot, and people are like, oh, I know that name, and they check it off. Well, he got in because he had a certain name, and a politician had died that was a sitting, I guess, congressman, and he was in the same district, so he ran under a similar name, and he was elected. And when he got to DC, it wasn't what he thought. He was like, wow, these are bigger crooks than I am. You know what I mean? That was the whole comedy of the whole point of the movie. But yeah. If we have it, it'd be funny to show that. But
I actually want to comment
And thi-
further on, if I may, on Josh's talking about reaching across the aisle. If you actually talk to Josh, you'll know this. If you talk to boomers, they fondly talk about the politics of the 70s to the 90s, and they'll often comment about how the politicians were better people at that time because they were more bipartisan. And that's a trick that's been played on them. The reason they were bipartisan is not because common sense politics or common sense this and that. They weren't better people. Some of the politicians of that era are some of the worst in American history. The fact was they were being played by people underneath them to to push forward the same doctrine. Look at the Project for the New American Century. That was done by Kagan, specifically what? Stating that they're going to pursue what they called the Reaganite policy of military strength and moral clarity, meaning America is the sole moral authority of the world, and it will maintain this moral authority through what? Extreme military strength. Who was one of the key directors
makes
of the Project for the New American Century? Paul Wolfowitz. What is the Wolfowitz doctrine? Extreme American military spending, extreme incursions, both politically and militarily, into second and third world countries. If you can't submit them with money, you submit them with force or subversion. So, where did all these think tanks, all these ideas, where did they come from? They came from Kissinger's acolytes, people that were put in by him, people that worked under him. What a coincidence that the same people that worked under the Project of the New American Century and worked for Henry Kissinger went on to work for the Office of Special Affairs. That, if you believe some reports, might have known about a certain attack that happened on the beginning of September 2001, and after that
Oh,
immediately worked to expand American influence in Middle Eastern countries.
so convenient the timing was.
Yep.
Now that you both mentioned this, I got a couple of questions. One is a little bit this digressing, and then I'll come back on it. When you mention this, you know what brings into my mind when you mention this lobbying and partisan and things. You know what I remember? Do you remember the first season of House of Cards, that Netflix series from 10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. Like I watched that series. It's pretty accurate. It's pretty it's Distinguished Gentleman was a comedy, and it kind of poked at how DC worked, but House of Cards, and like I'm saying, I'm not saying everything that happened in House of Cards is how DC works, but basically
The spirit.
the basics, the spirit or the basics of how it worked. They did kind of talk about how it really. And there's another one, Wag the Dog is a good is a
Oh
good
yeah.
yeah, but that's all like conspiracy. But I mean, as far as if you've ever worked in DC, or you have friends in DC, or even family that's worked in government, Distinguished Gentleman and House of Cards is pretty accurate. But I mean, it's not, I mean, it's still, what is it, fiction, so it's not necessarily 100%, but the basis is there.
Now, this is the second question that I have is, now I understand it's how embedded and how embedded is American politics with Israeli or lobby, APAC and such. I mean, do they have this? I would say the word that comes to mind, and I don't think it can be strong, and I could be wrong. Please correct me. Is incestuous in the sense that there are so many American Israeli citizens working in tandem with the American and the Israeli politics together in this alliance that it seems for some conspiratorial minds would say that it's the Israelis are controlling the United States. While some others would say, no, no, the United States is having a proxy in the Middle East to control those regions. Which of those versions is actually true or close to true?
I would say that obviously there's a lot of influence in DC from Israel. There's a lot of PAC money and different things. You have ADL and these different organizations that support political agendas. They have a lot of money. Obviously, through business donations and support. Um, but I mean, as far as the U.S. and Israel is concerned, at the end of the day, the United States is is a military industrial complex. I mean, it's got what represents 50% of the GDP, and then other types of support. So naturally, the United States, like I said, their business is war, as Gerald Slente says. The business of America is war. So their purpose in NATO is that you only buy from the U.S. for NATO contracts, and it's the same with, like, Israel's also a defense contract. They're a big defense country as well. It makes up a good proportion of their GDP as well, and they also sell weapons to other NATO members and other countries throughout the world. So it's big business, like I said. And now that oil is coming with energy, with the energy crisis that we're seeing, there's oil off the coast of Gaza right now that I pointed out months ago that they're now talking about in mainstream media, and that there were certain deals that were made with Saudi Arabia and other countries to build pipelines from Saudi Arabia to Turkey into Europe. And I'm not going to get into conspiracy or, was Iran involved? Was, blah, 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 was China or whatever. The reality is that they've stopped all operations off the coast because of the conflict. So now we're going to see really serious energy issues, I think, in the near future. And like I said, the oil and the military industrial complex usually go hand in hand,
Hmm.
and it's been that way for a long
If I
time.
may comment on what
By all
Josh is
means.
saying, this debate about who controls who, I think is pretty clear. Um, I actually was speaking with a friend from Syria a couple of months ago, and we had this debate. And I asked him, I said, the biggest lobby in the United States is APAC, the American Israeli Political Actions Conference. it raises through its subsidiaries per subsidiary about $5 to $7 million. It's bipartisanly attended by 2/3 of Congress and 2/3 of the House.
Wow.
Israel receives $4.5 billion lump sum. No other country gets a lump sum. Most of it, other countries get installments throughout the year. It can be 4, it can be 6. Israel gets lump sum. They get the 4 billion
Wh-
check in the mail.
What's a
Well,
lump sum?
they get cash
They get
versus
cash.
like Georgia,
Oh, they just
like
It's not a
curious.
package. It's not a package
they
like other
right.
countries.
No,
It's
other countries
money.
receive package of aid, military
Yeah.
equipment, other things. They get a cash check, like a
Yep.
written out check from the treasury. Here you go.
Wow.
And a lot of the countries that
Go
we
ahead.
do
Go ahead.
give aid to, North Africa, the Levant, the Middle East, it's at their behest. It's for them to maintain allyship with Israel. The Israelis have often stepped on American toes. USS Liberty, that's undeniably the USS Liberty was attacked.
Can you please give us a little story, a background of what happened with the USS Liberty? If you could?
Yeah. During one of the many conflicts between the Arab nations and Israel during its founding, there was a U.S. ship off the coast of Egypt that had witnessed Israel killing. The reports say the people that are on ships say that they saw the Israelis killing about 1,000 Egyptian civilians, and the Israelis not wanting that to be reported back to the world started for 3.5 hours attacking this U.S. vessel. And after the fact, the Israelis claimed that they thought it was an Iraqi ship, which, I mean, that's implausible. And as a matter of fact, the survivors of the attack, the veterans that were on the ship, have posted a challenge that is still active today of $10,000 to anybody that can prove that this attack was an accident. And to this day, this challenge has never been met because it's multiple independent military investigations have been done throughout the decades into what happened, and the conclusion is always it is undeniable that this ship was attacked on purpose. There was no way for the ship to be confused with a Middle Eastern nation ship. This was obviously an American ship, and they knew it. And not to go into much more, but it's for example, one of the biggest examples I always bring up is the fact that the Mossad is one of the most aggressive intelligence agencies against the United States. After Russia and China, it's the Mossad. And some CIA directors have admitted that it might be that the Mossad might even top what is the current, it's not the KGB anymore. What is it?
FSB,
The FSB. Thank you.
FSB.
And the CCP's intelligence is actually dwarfed by the Israelis' aggression proportionately. And another thing was a clear example was in 2017 when Trump asked Israel to stop expanding into the West Bank, and they straight up ignored him to the point where Mike Pompeo had to go over there and speak with the Israeli leadership and ask him to stop. There's also the fact that Israel sells our weapons to China, who, regardless of what you view our position towards China, China is considered an enemy of the United States, and they already do enough spying and stealing of American military technology for our number one ally in the world to be selling it is very scummy, and the way they sell it is very underhanded. What they do is they sell it to European countries, and those European countries will then sell it on to China, and China will give Israel aid, some type of construction. One of the big things is desalination plants. That's a big thing China and Israel have been trying to get done. It's only been blocked by the United States for obvious reasons, is that if China gets a foothold technology-wise in Israel, it can present a national security concern with them being our biggest ally in the Middle East. Um, it's to me, it's clear who runs whose lap. Another thing was recently, I think Josh, you remember this. Israel was extremely close to banning the gospel in Israel. It was going to become a crime to speak about the gospel or about Jesus to a Israeli. But these are the same people that want you in the United States to be thumping the Zionist agenda up and down your churches, but you can't speak about your faith in their country. So I think it's very clear who, and this was the Benjamin Netanyahu regime. So this wasn't the liberal faction. This was the
Yeah,
Netanyahu
this was
ultra
reforms
orthodox.
under reforms.
Yeah, and these are
Yeah.
supposed to be the conservative evangelicals' number one guys, and they're trying to ban the gospel. I mean, I think it's clear. I mean, anybody who looks at the facts, I mean, these are all facts I brought up. These aren't my judgments. These are matters of fact. I think it's very clear who runs whose game. Josh is right though that at the end of the day, though, the United States, through its military prowess, does hold some leverage over Israel. But Israel, like he also stated, is a huge military producer. I mean, it's no coincidence that 25% of American military companies are owned by Israelis or American Jews. It's just the truth.
Now, it comes to my curiosity now. I mean, let's just go away from the conspiratory ideals and paranoid ideas. But this is my question. Why would a nation that so heavily depends on a superpower would undermine the interests of a superpower because it would be committing suicide? I mean, it makes no sense to me. Yes, I believe everything you say is documented, and I believe it's just I can't explain myself why, and most importantly, what for a nation that is surrounded. It's a nation of 6 million people that is surrounded by 1,500 million people who hate their guts. Why would they step on the toes of the people who protect them? Any ideas?
Josh, you want to go?
It's business. That's it. Not politics, it's business.
Yep.
Suiciding is not a business. Suicide is stupid.
See, the thing is that this relationship for the longest time, and Kissinger kind of kept that glue together. Netanyahu has become, like I said, through his reforms. I mean, there's a lot of people in Israel do not like him, and
Yep.
there's a lot of people asking for him to be jailed. And I don't know if you remember, Gerald Celente mentions it many times that he was talking about. We've even covered it in our Telegram group, if you guys remember, with the protests, the massive protests in
Yep.
Israel, and the IDF were cracking down.
Yep.
The police force of the IDF were cracking down on protesters, and these were Orthodox people. These were the liberal Orthodox people that were upset at the reforms that Netanyahu has implemented.
He was
over his
ousted in
tenure.
2018 for a reason.
Yeah.
Come
And
again,
I mean,
Police Susano?
He was ousted in 2018. They basically ran him
Oh, yeah.
out. I just wanted to add that to Josh's point. Go ahead, brother.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I mean-
Josh. Please, I interrupt you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, and then, like I said, I didn't really even know a lot of this stuff until I started researching it, and I mean, it makes sense why there's, I'm not getting a conspiracy of whatever happened or whatever, but we had suggested in the Telegram group, we had talked about, I talked about it with one of our members. We were like, it's kind of eerie that like Netanyahu was like, because they're going through elections, kind of like Zelensky. And like Biden now going through election, we're in election year here in 2024, and that it was quite coincidence that this happened right when he was about ready to be basically voted out of his
Yep.
position and possibly facing jail time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people now talking about it, and we didn't say anything publicly because I don't, I mean, it's like it's not. I don't want to get into that, but it is interesting.
Yep.
And it needs something does need to be brought up because. And then especially when they talk about, their IDF spokespeople talk about that it was their September 11th, and it's like, or the 9/11, and I'm like, what? So it's like the Pearl Harbor, like, okay, something I don't feel
Something's up.
comfortable. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But I don't want to get too far in conspiracy. It's something that, like I said, that should have been brought up, and that, it's okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Other people can research it and figure it out.
And people need to remember that, like Josh is saying, he's been very unpopular for a while, and it's specifically the more liberal factions out of Tel Aviv. There's a reason that Netanyahu has always pushed for Jerusalem to be recognized by Western countries, that is a political move because people don't because of Jerusalem split amongst religious lines. It's not a strong base for Israel yet. The real cultural core in Israel are the cities of Tel Aviv and Haifa. Tel Aviv is really where policy and culture in Israel are made. And unfortunately for Benjamin,
Economic,
yeah, Tel Aviv is
economic as well.
extremely left leaning, extremely liberal. Even the
Very liberal,
Orthodox
very
Jews over
liberal.
there are very liberal. So there's a reason he's pushing back against that, and he wants Jerusalem to be the core because that's where his wing comes from, and that's why he's gotten
Right.
Javier Milei, Bolsonaro, what's the guy from Honduras,
Bukele.
Nayib Bukele, yeah. That's why, and Trump, of course, in 2017, he pushed for them to make Jerusalem the official capital of the embassies for their respective countries.
Never. Yes, please finish it so I can ask you a
No,
question.
I'm good. I'm good. I just want to keep adding on to Josh's point because he's really hitting a lot of good points, and I want to add detail.
I believe that we already covered this in previous broadcasts, but for the renewing public, isn't there? I'm sure that there is people like us in Israel who are asking themselves the same questions that we are asking. Is there any resistance, a political, pacific, honest resistance to Netanyahu's policies that seem to be suicidal at the most and inconvenient at the least? Is there any political resistance as sensible people, sane people who wish to live in peace and do business like any other normal man in Israel? There must be.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. You know how like the woke politics of our West, how it's crazy and it's radical and it's killing businesses, and especially
Yes.
with the COVID lockdowns have killed small business growth and the economy, and it's killed the Chinese economy, the communist Chinese. It's done. That's what I said. China would collapse economically, and it's already on its way. Gerald Salente was like, "Oh no, it's Chinese century," and I was like, "Dude, just wait, you'll see. They'll communists. They forever. Yeah, it is what it is." But nonetheless, like I said, the situation is that businessmen in Jerusalem, or sorry, in Israel, they don't like this regime because it's killing their business and it's killing the economy. And this has been known, a well-known fact, for a while now under his regime. And the same thing with Biden in the West has been killing business growth and been killing small business even after COVID, whenever, through the bailouts and all that stuff. It's instead of it being liberals or progressives killing it through crazy policies like the Green New Deal and, taxing cow farts like in Europe and stuff. It's on the conservative side in Israel. It's like opposite day, but it's nonetheless, it's the same bullshit policies that are being implemented due to rhetoric and personal bias, as opposed to just let's do business and let's do international trade. They had, like I said, they had the deals with Saudi Arabia. They had Iran was like, yeah, we're on board. Let's make some money. I want to start selling oil. Everybody was on board, and then all of a sudden, here's Netanyahu. Boom, done. Everything's over.
Okay. This is me. I'm going to take full responsibility of what I'm going to say. So you don't have to agree with me, and I wish you don't. But everything you say, I try to make it as more sensitive and fact checked as possible. But everything seems to point out to me that going to the conspiratorial angle that said that we are run by psychopaths, in the sense that people who just want to see themselves mirror in the disgrace and misery of the people in front of me, even if they are my peers, even if they are my own people. They say that, I believe Sun Tzu, the great Chinese general who wrote this, The Art of War, said, an evil man would rather burn his own country so he would roll over its ashes.
Yeah, it's true.
I have no other sensible explanation to myself than to look at the picture of at least let's just point one guy of Netanyahu. Say, is this guy a psychopath? Is this guy an evil man, hell bent on the destruction of everything we normal sane people who want to do business, in the sense that I want to do something for somebody else, and I want to make money to grow. Is he in the destruction of my way of living? According to the let's remove all labels, and let's just talk about the rulers: Netanyahu, Biden, Zelensky. Are these evil men?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say they're evil, but they definitely have psychopathic tendencies. And there was a good book that was published a while back. I read it actually. It was about boomers and sociopath. I have to go look it up. I'm sorry, I don't remember the title exactly. It was mostly a data book. It was a lot of numbers and different things that were spoken, but it wasn't far off about the fact that the boomers generation, which a lot of these guys are, not Zelensky, um, have grown up in a time of plentiful resources and trade and growth, and they call them baby boomers, I guess, for a reason, you know, because they're part of the baby boom. But there's also another stigmata with that they're children.
Yep.
You know, they're like they have temper tantrums, and they can't handle, you know, when they don't get their way. And if, you know, like a chick, like a woman, when she doesn't get her way, what does she do? She acts out and she lashes out
Throws
at
a hissy
people.
fit.
Yeah, and that's like these are like beta men. Like I keep saying, these leaders are not men; they're betas, and they're boomers because most boomer men are betas, and they're sociopaths are the same. They just lash out when they don't get their way, and that's how I see it. So I mean, you're onto something there, definitely.
Um, let's just move from a little move further from here. Punish Kusana, you said something that in 2018 Netanyahu was ousted from power. How
Yes.
did he come back?
He was reelected, mainly because he had the support of Donald Trump, and secondly, he was able to get the U.S. to move the embassy along with the other countries that I stated back to Jerusalem, which is a huge. I can't understate, or excuse me, overestimate how much of a political move this was, because what's your this that three-pronged struggle that you've had between rabbinic Judaism, Christianity, and Islam basically got stoned into the water. One toppled the other. So with him doing that, it was a huge landmark, and it gained them a lot of favors politically in Israel. So
How is it, according to Josh and Punish Kusana, how is it that Trump, a man of business, a man who understands the value of the deal, wouldn't see that Netanyahu was a crook in layman terms?
well, he does actually. As a matter of fact, recently they have butted heads because when the controversy around the 2020 election went down, Netanyahu is actually one of the first. He might have actually been the first politician to congratulate Joe Biden on the election. And this obviously rubbed Trump the wrong way with all the support Trump has
That's a
given to them.
betrayal.
Yeah, straight up. That's what he said it was. And recently, Trump has talked about Netanyahu saying that he's kind of blown his load, to so to speak, that he's losing it a little bit, and that he might be overplaying his hand. So Trump has actually been one of the most critical Republicans towards Netanyahu, and saw him for what he was, which is Netanyahu's a manipulator. That's all he is. He loves the media. I mean, the Netanyahu family owns one of the biggest news organizations in Israel, which is I-24 News, where a lot of the reports of Hamas going into neighborhoods and just indiscriminately killing babies came from. That is a proven fact. The State Department said as much, and the White House said that this was a report that came from the Netanyahu family, but they had no visual evidence that this was actually a situation that happened.
I remember hearing that, like, okay, where are the pictures of the babies?
Yep.
I didn't see them in any channel. I mean, for all the people who are listening to us, there are channels in Telegram that are, I wouldn't say clandestine, but they are not official, that show gory pictures to prove that the guys in Hamas mean business, and the guys in Israel, they don't they we have this expression in Spanish. Punish Gusano, perhaps you can help me out. No se quedan atrás. They don't lag behind in the brutality. This is a serious, gory business. And some Telegram channels are into documenting that. However, in these channels, there were no such pictures of those babies. I have heard that Gal Gadot, the actress, the Hollywood actress, did a screening for private influential people in Hollywood documenting the atrocities, but I have no proof of that. I didn't see those atrocities. Going a little bit on the speculation level, what do you think is going to happen if in the next United States election regarding Israel? Because it seems that Donald Trump will run for office and he will probably win. Because not because he's good, but because everybody who is against him is so bad. What do you think is going to? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I said, it's like being the cutest chick at a fat party. Trump's the cutest chick at that fat party. That's basically how I see it.
Did you guys
That
see
quote
Ron
came from-
DeSantis get cooked by freaking Gavin Newsom?
Yeah.
That was insane.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom cooked Ron. This is the governor of California destroying the governor of Florida in a debate. He got destroyed. Go watch the debate. He destroyed him.
Okay. Okay. So that leaves. Okay, Trump and who? What's the name of the California guy?
Gavin Newsom.
Gruesome Newsom.
Gruesome Newsom. Okay. Okay.
That's what we call
Okay,
him. We call him Gruesome, or Trump calls him Gruesome Newsom too, I think.
Okay. Well, he has a knack for theatrics. So he got is Gruesome Newsom. Is he a Republican or a Democrat?
He's a Democrat. He's the governor of California.
He's
Okay.
a bleeding heart, hypocritical Democrat, progressive pussy ass, beta.
So is he going to be? Do you think is as of today, December the 1st, 2023? Is Donald Trump the indisputed Republican runner?
I mean, it's without a doubt. They technically can reject him, but if they do, the GOP needs to all line themselves up against the wall. If they don't choose,
that party would be done.
Yeah.
If they don't elect him, the party's over. I've already left the party. I'm a libertarian now. I'm part of the Libertarian Party. I left after the last election.
So who is the head honcho in the Democrat Party?
it's Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom. So is this guy?
Yeah.
Is he as popular or as powerful, or does he have the drive that Donald Trump has, or is he just minnows for the eating?
No politician in the United States has the drive that Donald Trump is. Donald Trump's a man. The rest of them are a bunch of losers. Even Vivek, people love Vivek, but Vivek is just. I mean, dude, he was getting to a spat with Nikki Haley about who's a bigger Zionist. I mean, this is pointless. Arguing with a woman about who I've been to Israel more than you have. I've donated more money, dude. That's what? What does it have to do with anything?
That's beta.
Yeah, it's beta.
That's beta. I'd be
Beta,
that's
like,
great.
Beta.
Yeah, beta male.
Beta.
Yeah, I would have just been like, look, lady, that's great. I'm happy for you. Let's go ahead and just get back to topic again.
Okay.
Like, good for you.
Okay.
I would say it just like this. I'd be like, good for you.
And then you like.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Let's do a little bit futurology. Now, we have this approaching looming doom in the sense that the United States economical inertia is grinding to a halt. And then you have, I believe that the educated intelligentsia of the country seems to be like they recognize what we are talking about. I mean, I like to think that we're not the only ones who are talking about these issues. And once Trump gets elected into office again, what do you think is going to happen to the Israeli? I won't say lobby, but let's just go into the general aspect that the Israeli power. And when I say power, I'm not saying military power, but the influence, the drive, the influence, the political sway that they have on over not only the politicians, because I believe that politicians will do anything for the right money, but
Yeah.
the credibility of the general population who read and write. And yes, although many people are sheep, there are so many others who are not, who will just into the caucus, they'll say, look, guys, this isn't working for us. Is the Israeli influence in any way going to be diminished in the future?
I mean, it's still relevant. It's still a very powerful economy, and they're part of the military industrial complex, and they're kind of a pseudo colony of the United States to the gateway into the Middle Eastern oil and energy
Yep.
resources. And they keep a good relationship with China and keep that stability in Middle East and Western Asia.
Also, half of their
Like we
population lives in the United States, and it lives in the big three
exactly,
cities: New York, San
yeah,
Francisco, and L.A. I mean, they run the show over there.
yep. Glue that keeps it together. The glue that keeps it together.
So it's not going, but it's going to be in detriment of the United States' best interests. How is mom
I
and
think
pops going to react on it?
Not as a government.
I honestly no, I honestly think that the United States needs to be worried about civil unrest due to
Yep.
economic turmoil, due to supply line shortages, food shortages,
Yep.
and the increased prices of products and things that are going to be coming in. Because it's not so much like what you're dealing with in Argentina. I'll ask you a question on that after
All
I
right.
finish what I'm going to say. But you know, in the United States, like I said, I go to the grocery store. I'm paying they're charging $15 to $20 for a steak, a crappy cut of steak. And I'm like, I remember paying $10 for that same steak that was a lot better quality not
Yep.
even a year ago. I can't find products because the products are out. They're consistently out. And I haven't I've lived in, like I said, I've been in war zones, I lived in third world countries. I lived and worked in third world countries. I've worked in very poor conditions, you know, as a volunteer, you know, with what work that I do, you know, like in education and stuff. Um, I haven't seen this stuff since being in those third world countries, even in China. This is we're in third world conditions in America, or coming quickly to third world conditions. You can see the decline. It's now realized. We were saying this for a decade now that we were heading towards a decline. We're headed towards a decline. We're in it. We're in it now. So the things that I've mentioned, well, one more thing, and then I'll ask you. The thing that I will see is what I see is that housing prices will plummet by 70%. A lot of assets will plummet, but certain things like automobiles, you know, consumer goods, food, things that need to be produced by labor will increase in price. So like houses will drop because there's too many of them, and you know what I mean. Let's face it, most of the houses that are like that are owned are vacant. They're owned by boomers as a second, third, or fourth home as an investment, or they're owned by BlackRock and they're empty. No one's staying in there. So there's an oversupply of houses. And when the shit hits the fan, the economy starts to decline, which is going to happen soon. Gerald Slente said it. All the commentators, influencers, economists. I'm saying it as a you know, as an economic and social policy professor, that it's going to happen. I'm a data analysis, so I've seen the data, and I'm like, if it doesn't happen, it's well, Jesus will come the next day. Like you know, I mean, that's basically where I'm at. It's a 99% certainty at this point. There's going to be a depression and economic collapse coming in the not too distant future. But that being said, what I just said, can you give me shed some light on what you've noticed in Argentina over the last decade? Have you seen similarities in that?
Well, yes. The
Parallels?
thing is that you have these populists who actually made their life out of spewing slogans to assuage the great majority of people. And these slogans were nice to hear, but on the back end, they were stealing left and right. This completely dismantling the infrastructure of the country. So, for example, a couple of years ago, there was a massive fire in a forestal fire in a whole province, and there were no supplies from the state to solve the problem. Like talking about airplanes that throw water, so that. So eventually, there was this guy, whose name was Santiago Maratea. This cute guy who used to run raffles on the internet, and he came with a proposal of getting 100 million I don't know, it was $1 million, 100 million pesos, but a big number, collecting numbers to buy, materials and supplies to help that province. And he managed to pull it off. This creating a massive rift in putting in question the utility of the state. I mean, if we have the technology now to solve our own problems in the private sector, why do we need the state? So the thing is, this essential in the Spanish word would be malestar, Punish Gusano. Can you help me out?
Discontent or discomfort.
Discontent. This general discontent began growing. The thing is that in last election, Sergio Massa, the runner-up of the official party, which is now the ruling party, spent $15 million. Once again, 15 billion with a B dollars in his campaign. This was completely illegal and, of course, pornographically unethical. And Javier Milei, our elected president, zero. And Javier Milei was still elected because people are not stupid. Essentially, what people want to live a happy, fulfilling life without depending on anybody. The message that the ruling party didn't get, the memo that they didn't get, is that we don't want to thank you for anything, even if you have the best intentions. Which I believe is the same sentiment that the career politicians in the United States have. This is not something of once again, coyuntura. Punish Gusano, coyuntura, something of the time of the moment of the times. No, this is eternal. This is people who want to be adored simply by being themselves, being good with somebody else's money. That's the career politician. Beta people who just want to be adored, against the businessman who came into politics to get shit done. This, of course, that's what I believe. United States, Argentina is the mirror of the future of the world, because we are a civilized first world nation. Even if we don't have the technological advance of the third world, like we can import them. We may not produce them, but we can import them. But we have the problems of first world nations. So what's going to happen now is that I believe that what's going to happen is that, you know, that last week Javier Milei traveled to the United States, and he got in meetings with international Jewish communities, since he converted to Judaism himself, and of course talking to many politicians in the United States. So what I believe he is doing is that he's negotiating governability, in the sense that he hasn't even, Javier Milei has not assumed office just yet. He's going to do it on the 10th. But there was massive demonstrations against him as a deterrent. So what I believe he did was exchange loyalty and political favors, like asylum from Jewish seekers, from Jewish colonists in case the shit hits the fan over in Israel, and of course economical guarantees to American interests in exchange of governability. I mean, putting the CIA and the Mossad in his pocket to help him run the office. Because remember, he just announced that we're going to have between 18 and 24 months of stagflation. Argentina is going to have between 18 and 24 months of stagflation in order to clean house. This is going to create massive discontent, but justified, because many people understand that this stagflation has a root, has a meaning, has an explanation of it. But many other people who live off the state, leechers and moochers, not only are not going to, they don't understand it, but just like Voltaire said, you can explain something when his salary is for him to not understand it. So there's going to be a massive, and I can't understate this enough. I cannot state this enough. It's going to be, the word is massive, confrontation between two forces: the libertarian wing and the populist one. That's pretty much all I have to say. I believe now we are in an hour. So how about this? We're going to take a 10, 15-minute break, and then we'll come back. How about that?
Sounds
Your
good.
your your
Sorry, sounds good. Sounds great. Sorry. Yeah.
All right. For the people who is watching us, thank you so much for the time. Remember, in the meantime, like and subscribe, and we'll be back in 15 minutes.
Same way in college too. The rich girls, they or at least the girls whose parents had money, they were busy studying and didn't have time to talk to anybody. But like usually the locals around the college, those chicks, yeah, man, if you need a quick lay, just go talk to a local chick. Go talk to a 19, 20-year-old that's working at the fucking cafe, and she'll fucking give you up some, man. That's how I did it. They got
I really
nothing.
want to hear. Sorry, please
They
go
got
ahead.
nothing going. No, I'm just saying they got nothing going for them. They're working at a university or they're working at a college at like 1920, and they have no life because they're seeing all these educated people and all these rich people going to school, and like they're like, oh, I'll date this guy. It's like, I'm not interested in dating you. I just want to fuck you. That's it.
Oh, did you hear about the concept? I'm sure you haven't heard about the concept of hoflation. Hoflation.
Yeah,
You don't. Hoflation
yeah, I've
is
heard of it.
because of women's inflated ego thanks to social media and modernity. You have, as a man, you have to work much more than your grandfather to get a chick with less quality than your grandmother.
Yeah, I mean that happened like because we're older. That happened like right after I got out of college. That's when social media started to explode. And that's when I noticed I wasn't getting the attention after college when social media started because women started getting attitudes, and this was like in the early 2000s, early mid 2000s. And at
Mid
that
two
point I was
thousands.
like, well, yeah, about that time. And I was like, fuck, I got a degree, I've got education. I left and went overseas. I was working overseas for 10 years and fucking all the women overseas. So I eventually just got married. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, dude, if you got your degree, you got your shit together, like just go overseas and go meet a chick. And don't bring her back to
Yeah.
America or like the West. Keep her there. Stay there. Get
Don't.
established there and don't fucking come back. Just don't come back. You can come back to visit, get her a tourist visa, a visitor visa, but don't get her green card, don't bring her back. That's the best advice I can give anybody.
I would very much like to hear what Punish Rosano, as a Zoomer who is navigating the treacherous world of American college campuses, tell us about your perspective.
More specifically on what?
Oh,
On
we were
passport
talking about.
bros. Passport bros and women, Zoomer women that you go to college with. Like, what's your perspective?
I haven't really met any passport bros. I do think it's like kind of retarded to be one because you're kind of going into a den that you're unfamiliar with and assuming the problem with the passport bro mentality from my perspective is the presupposition that women are different at some part of the world because my trad culture. No, the the women in other countries, regardless of the wealth, are not very much different, if at all, from the women in the West.
Social media?
No, social
Yeah,
media. I
social
actually
media.
think the social media thing is often a kind of like deflection from the problem. I find that to be the answer to a lot of people's problems. Oh, social media is the reason the kids are turning gay. Social media is the reason the divorce rate. It's like, dude, social media is like 10 years old. It's not social media. These problems are much more ingrained It's something that's been happening since the beginning of time, in my opinion. Um, I think passport bros, we really just got to point at them and laugh and just make them understand that it's not you don't want to go to Japan and get your trad wife. You don't want to go to Latin America or Eastern Europe and get your trad
Yeah.
wife. These
Oh
women
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
way smarter than you, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
They know what
I
you're
mean, can I
looking for.
add? Let me add to that. Like I said, because I married a foreign wife. I studied the culture and before I left, and I have friends from the culture.
Yep.
So, and they didn't help me find her. I met her on my own, not through friends. But because they spoke the language, and they told me about the culture, and I visited it, and that's why I married her, because she was conservative and from a good family, and I liked the culture. I converted to her religion, and I learned the language and all that stuff, or at least I'm learning. I've been all over. I've been to Korea. Been to China. I've been to
I'm
the
gonna show
Middle
you
East.
something.
I've been. Hold on one second. What? What
He
are you
said
asking?
he's gonna go grab something, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. No, I'm just saying, like, yeah. I mean, I've been all over. Like I said, I grew up in a multicultural area in South Florida, so I mean, I was around different people in the city in Tampa, and no, I mean, I would say I would agree with you. Yeah, definitely. But the problem with I would say with the passport bros, like I said, is that you have to marry the culture, not the woman, and
Yeah, yeah, you can't bring her
that's
back
the
to
only that's the
America.
catch.
Can't
You
bring her
can't bring
back
her
to
back to
America, bro.
America.
You're just setting yourself up to do the same thing with extra steps. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I
That'll be me.
what?
Ah, damn it.
Dude, what are you showing
What the
us?
fuck are we looking at? What the fuck are you looking at? What is this?
Me in Japan.
Why were
Oh,
you in
okay.
Japan?
Because I was 17 years old and I didn't know any better. My parents didn't like me, and they just I didn't like them, and I just told them, "Hey, I want to go on a exchange trip for a year. Having me around here is going to cost you this money. Having me around there is going to cost you this much money." And they, of course, they just chose to send me away.
So what were the
But
women like at 17 though? Like were they difficult? Was it difficult for you to learn the language,
no,
or like
no, no. When you're white and Latin looking, they throw at you. They don't give a shit.
okay.
It was fishing with grenades. It was
Right
awesome.
on. So you had
But
similar
the
experience I did.
chicks, they were so immature. They were so, oh my
Like
god,
that's part of Asian
childish.
culture. That's Asian culture. There's like I've met 30-year-old women, 40-year-old women that are still like they're fucking 8 years old, dude, mentality in Asia.
They
They
have this perversity that they needed, and then this is going to sound really wrong. It is like they want you to embrace this sort of ogre, abusive, uh, 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 rapey kind of a guy, and the dynamic of the relation, the sexual relationship is like
don't
that.
even go into that, man. I don't even want to hear that shit, man.
Just that's all I have to
So
say.
they,
Just
just
make the
just
most of
say
it.
just say that they liked aggressive men. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, they like they like the aggressive way, and they like to play the role of the, oh please, I am so helpless.
Wow.
That's so wrong in
That's
so
damn.
many levels. But
Well,
anyway,
that was the show,
Anyway,
ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight.
exactly. On a lighter
oh,
note, I mean, no, I'm just saying, like I said, like passport bros, I understand what you're saying, like on chain, yeah. Um, it's you when you get into it, like I said, you need to like you marry the culture, you don't marry the woman. That's all I could say. So like,
yeah,
I see these guys go to Thailand and I see them go to Japan. I know a lot of, like I said, I work overseas. So like I met a lot of guys that come from different cultures there. And every single guy I met is they're I would say more than half. It's the same statistic as the West has ended in divorce and they never get to see their child. So they experience the same exact shit that they're seeing in the West because at the end of the day, they're fucking betas, they're losers, and they're going over there to
yeah.
get women.
I
Versus
would I
me,
would say, I
yeah,
would
I'm not in that
refer
boat.
to all the men who are listening to us and they need guidance. I would refer to watch videos of Patrice O'Neill, fat black comedian who knew his women. And one of the things he said is like, women don't function if you don't care. Your women in your life don't function if you don't care. Like, have something going on in your life to validate your existence away than your woman. And if she's going to give you an ultimatum, be willing to walk away. In a sense, this they say that 20% of men take 100% of the women, or 80% of the women. It's that because women, and this is a secret that it's not so much of a secret, but this is women are willing to share a high value of men than getting stuck with a faithful loser.
Yeah, it's true.
So
And yeah. Go ahead.
build yourself, men who are listening to me or to us. Build yourself both externally and internally, in the sense that, yes, build your skills, make bank, become indispensable in your field of work or in your field of endeavor, make money, but also understand your value as a human being deserving of love. And if a woman is not willing to give you love under your terms, be willing to walk away and be willing to not need women. Be in love with yourself. That's love yourself in the sense that if a woman is not around you, go out. Do not need women. Go out without sex. Divest your libido in your work, and women will notice. Josh, you don't have any sound.
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
sound,
Yeah,
Josh.
I hear you, brother. I'm just saying, like, yeah, focus on like your exactly. Focus on your interest, and generally your interest will indicate your confidence. So when you're meeting like let's say you're working on projects, you are successful at something like woodworking, or if it's gaming, or if it's like even like this social media shit that we're doing, you focus a lot of time and attention to it, and women will follow because they will see that you're confident in what you're doing. They're seeing that, especially when people start asking like, oh, that's interesting, tell me about it, and the other men are asking you about this other people to explain it, and you become a connoisseur, so to speak. And women are like, well, that's interesting. I don't really give a fuck what he's doing, but it's interesting that men are interested in what he's doing, because and then they pretend like they're interested. They're like, oh yeah, tell me about it too. And it's like, yeah, okay. And you can tell, like,
Women,
say, I've had that.
yeah,
Go ahead.
women want to compete for your attention, but not to other women, to your
No.
your craft. I mean, you know what women feel attracted to? If I can give a definition of what women feel attracted is your success on the commitment of your craft. Women
Yeah.
get attracted, they get irritated, they get nervous, and they just to a guy who has a sense of belonging.
This is true. I would say that for the most part, like what I've experienced is, like I said, and I said the reason why I got so much attention in high school and college is because I played sports, and I focused only on sports. I focused on working out, and as well as my academics. And I didn't really like when women. I didn't even approach women. Like, it would just, they just hung out, because like I was hanging out with other guys that were either alphas or they were other sportsmen, and I hung out with everybody. I was a very social person, as I am, as you can see, like through our podcast. And women just pretended to be fucking interested in my sports, and they didn't even watch it. They didn't care. And it was just because I was literally good at it, and I put so much attention into it. They're like, I wonder if I can get him to put that attention on me, you know? And that's what women are craving. It's that they're like little egotistical, like narcissistic, like sociopaths, man. They crave your
Attention,
attention.
attention is the currency in girls world.
Not money, not muscles, not brains, none of that shit. It's just that when they see that you're confident, you're focused on something, and other people find an interest in that, and that they see you, that they see you as a confident leader in that, it's mainly comes down to leadership. When they see you as a leader and you're leading other people, other men, that's when they start saying, "Oh wow, that's interesting." So when you lead the discussion or you lead the team or whatever the hell you do, especially
And
on social
remember,
media.
yes. And remember, the bar is very, very low. Like it's really easy to become a high status man. I'm not saying it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple in the sense that go pick something of your liking, become fucking good at it out of your
Yeah.
own desire.
10,000 hours? What is it? 10,000 hours dedicated
No, it's
to any
20. I
type of.
believe there is this TED talk of a guy who can master 95% of the craft in 20 hours. Then all those hours is just icing on the cake. But this is the thing, boys. This is the thing, boys. Dedicate 20 hours, not 20 days, not 20 years, 20 hours into something, and you'll figure 90%, 95% of it, you'll figure it out in 20 hours. Then focus on the icing of the cake. Women will begin to notice it. Also, do it for yourself. Don't do it
Yeah.
to get chicks. Chicks pick on that,
Yeah.
and they can sell the bullshit.
Yeah, they can.
Don't
That's why
don't do it for the women.
they're
Sure,
like
Josh,
sharks,
please go ahead.
man. They're like sharks in the water. They could smell like they could smell desperation. They could smell the like confidence. Like they're instinctual
Yeah,
like that. We're all
that's
instinctual at the
that's
end
why
of the day.
it's easier for older men because right now at our age we are not so nervous about women. We at the age of 35, there's this libido drop. You're not as horny as you used to. You're still horny. You're not as horny. And you can think with a bigger head. And it's good because you can strategize. So I understand for the younger men who are watching us that it is difficult. You have our solidarity. The best you can do is to first stop masturbating, go into no fap, go into semen retention, because
I don't know.
it's gonna mess up your head. I mean,
Uh,
guy, come on, Josh,
man.
please be with me.
Go work out, man. Go work out instead of
Yes,
masturbate. But I would say honestly, to be honest, like just go fucking play video games, man. Do what you're doing. Completely tune out. Fuck women, dude. Just do
Don't
your
have too
thing.
much idle time.
And
If you're touching yourself,
don't
yeah,
because you
what?
have too much idle time.
You don't
exactly.
have
You
too
need
much
to
idle
find
time.
something to do.
Enjoy your silence, but don't remember the devil works in idle hands. It was
Yeah, I
like
agree.
idle hands are the devil's playground.
Play pen, get it right, man. Come on.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. So Unchained, what's up, brother? So do you want to go into the our futuristic talk into
Go for it. We still got like 15 minutes, so go for it.
Sure,
all
I want
right,
to hear this. I'm
shit.
gonna shut the
Let's
fuck
do it.
up.
So we're so this is the segment where we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about shit. What the hell am I
Bullshit.
talking about? Yeah, travel talk. We're gonna talk about
Sorry,
space
talk.
travel and yeah. So go ahead and play the
Time
fucking thing.
travel. Do you know the story of this? What's the name of this guy? The guy who died recently, the mathematician.
Stephen Hawking.
I don't
He's a
know who.
scientist. He was a
That one,
Oh yeah.
Stephen
Hold on.
Hawking.
Wait. So do you have Unchained? Do you have the segment? Can you play it real quick?
Yes, sir. Give me 1
Yeah,
second.
go ahead and play it.
One second. For our viewers, the stream's gonna be black for right now. Done. All right, Josh. Where do you want to take this?
All right, so like yeah, I was just thinking about like John Titor and shit, like on the internet, how we like started off on like the Telegram channel and we came to Rumble. And this guy was talking about like timelines and shit. He was talking about parallel timelines, and I was thinking like what would it be interesting if like, instead of like that we were in a different timeline where like everything was opposite and it was like fucking opposite day. Could you imagine that? Like Yeah. What
What,
were you
you
gonna
were
say,
black?
Mario?
In an alternate timeline where
Yeah.
Josh, where Josh is black.
There was this joke that, yeah, actually, this really happened. And it said Stephen Hawking, the mathematician, wanted to prove time travel by hosting a party and not telling anyone, so time travelers would come and visit him for the party. Nobody showed up. Either he was a
It's fucking
very lame
hilarious.
host.
Was he
Yeah,
an incel?
He was literally paralyzed from the
no,
hip.
I think he was married at that stage. But you know what? Chicks dig success. So apparently, at his
Shit.
stage, he was still getting laid. Some woman may have done the favor just for the sake of
Wait,
being
hold
near
on.
him.
Didn't he cheat on his wife with his his homemade?
Dude,
Isn't
that would
that
be
true?
insane.
Dude.
Yes,
Ah.
that
He's like,
guy strapped into a chair. He still got pussy.
Can you rub my penis, please?
That feels good. Thank you. You see, boys,
Shit.
success. Be successful and you get laid.
I mean, think about it, right? You have some fucking guy at home playing in his fucking mom's basement video games at like fucking 20 years old. Can't even talk to a chick because she's just like, you're a masculine pig. And this guy's in a fucking wheelchair. His dick doesn't work. He has to use a voice box in order to communicate. And that motherfucker's getting laid, dude. Holy shit.
What does it
Fucking
speak
A.
about you, dear incels who is watching us now? It's okay. But you get my point.
Go open a fucking textbook, learn about astrophysics and shit, man. You get as much pussy as you want, man.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Oh, that was hilarious. But anyway, I mean, there was this guy, John Titor, right? Something about that. Who is this guy?
Yeah, John Titor. So this guy was on the internet, right? And he was like, this was during like the infancy of like social media or like internet in general, with like AOL, the chat rooms and shit. This guy was like talking about like crazy shit on blogs and stuff, and he was like talking about how like there was going to be a civil war in 2015 and like plagues and shit. And he had developed, he was a core group of like, he was like a time traveler, and like he was working for the government, and the government collapsed due to nuclear proliferation and shit. And he was a traveler from back in time, but he's not from the
He was
same
looking
timeline.
He was looking for a specific computer to do some weird calculations.
Yeah, like an IBM computer that was like basically it was like a legacy program or some shit. But yeah, because I don't know, this shit was crazy. Because one of the things he talked about that actually did come true, talking about fucking YouTube back in like 97, 99. He was like talking about how like there was no more media, and like media wasn't it was around, but it wasn't like as prevalent. And people were on like they were creating their own videos and posting it on a platform that you could stream from your phone and personal computer, and it was overtaking like media in general. And he said verbatim like exactly what the hell we're using now with this
Social media. He predicted social media.
most importantly like people doing like podcasts and shit like what we're doing now. It's crazy.
There was this other, maybe just comes to my mind. Some ad that appeared that says, "Bring your own weapons. I've only done this once." Do you remember this? I'm sure you have heard about it. There was this. I need two brave souls for time traveling somewhere. Bring your own weapons. I've only done this once. And there was this present yourself at this time, at this moment, in this, so we can go. And eventually, a lot of people arrived because it was fun. And I don't know what happened. There was a movie about it, but I'm sure I'll bring it up. I'll give it to you. I'm just gonna watch it real quick now. So what's this time travel
Anyway, so
advertisement?
while you're watching that shit, anyway, so like John Titor was talking about crazy stuff, man. Like some of the stuff came true, some of it didn't. He would say like basically it was from a different timeline, so like it may not happen because it was a different timeline. And it puts me in the mindset of like the show Sliders. I don't know if any of you guys seen that. Have you seen that, Unchained?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so there's this one show, there's this one particular episode in Sliders where they slide into a fucking parallel universe, right? And this was like in 97. I mean, this was like fuck, dude, like 30 years ago almost.
This was the
And
time
they
from
slid
the
into
from the BBS. Do you remember the BBS?
no, that's the fucking anyway. So like Sliders, right? It was on Sci-Fi and I think it was on Fox originally. So listen up. So they slide into this parallel universe that is ruled by women. It's called the episode's
Oh,
called Weaker. Hold on, the episode's called Weaker Sex. YouTube has fucking blocked it from being able to be shown on YouTube. You can't find it. Like you probably could, and then it gets kicked off. I had to download the shit from some torrent or something even to see it because they don't even air the fucking show anymore. Nonetheless, like I said, they slid into this world, this alternate world where women were in charge and the men were treated like second class citizens and they had no power.
Oh, they came to
And
America. Nice.
yeah, it was like holy shit, they predicted like what's going on now. And it's like,
wow.
are we in a different timeline? Did the CERN's fucking like collider
Some people say
cause
that.
a
Some people
rip?
that actually 21st of December 12 actually happened, but we didn't. There was no flash about it. We just
Yeah.
got sucked into another reality.
That's what I mean. Maybe we're in an alternative reality and that this like manosphere shit that we're dealing with, maybe it's like Sliders where they slid into a different parallel universe and our timeline is gone. We can never get back to it. It's like, I believe that like if you go to other parallel timelines that you're done with that timeline, you're in a different one. And I'm just saying, like maybe we slid into a different timeline where like women are actually in charge and they have power and influence, and men like we're seeing. I don't know. What do you
No,
think, Unchained? Or go ahead, Mario.
Um. Uh. Dude, the whole. I mean, I've seen some actual decent evidence that, like the Bernstein Bears is one of the best examples, or the collective idea that Nelson Mandela died in prison. That one's Well, that's literally where that effect comes
What about
from. But go ahead.
what about Star Wars? Star
Which
Wars,
one?
where
Oh,
Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your
I'm your
father,"
father.
and then when
Yeah.
they brought what, yeah, when they brought him on to talk about it, he said that he said that it was in the script, and then when they interviewed him, he was shocked when they said, "No, that's not what you said. You said I'm your father," and he showed the clip to him. He was fucking shocked.
I've
He was like, "I don't
seen
remember saying that."
I've seen some. You guys familiar with CERN?
That's what we're
yes,
talking
I
about,
know
CERN.
CERN.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I've
That's what I
seen
said
some.
with the server, with the collider. That's what I
Yeah,
said.
them messing with
Can
space
you give an
time.
explanation to the people who don't know?
I mean, CERN are just the
You want me
organization.
to?
No, go ahead,
By
Josh.
all means.
Well, CERN. All right, so CERN is basically a collective organization, is a scientific project that was, I guess, in the 70s, and basically it's all over. It's in Europe, and there's this big little like tunnel thing, and they shoot
Particles.
like lasers through it, right? Yeah, to like collide to create like basically black holes, like mini black holes and shit or something, and some people say that what they like what anyway, so some scientists say there's a 50-50 chance that like using it will cause black holes and rips in the universe and destroy the
You know
planet.
who actually financed it? You know who actually financed it? This is gonna blow your mind. The fucking Vatican financed it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's
it was
it's
in, it
actually a
was in
private
that
project.
movie.
I mean, you
it
have
was in
to
the
you have to
second
yeah.
it was in
Go
the
ahead, go ahead.
second movie. What is it with the who's that ass clown, what's his name?
Tom Hanks,
uh Tom Hanks was in it. The Devils and the
the
Angels
Dan
and shit. It was
Brown,
the part two.
Inferno.
It was Da Vinci Code, and then they made a second one. And that was the premise of the movie. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that thing, the CERN. What is it? The 20 Susano. You were talking about CERN.
Yeah, I've just heard that that their projects do have an effect on, like, their continuous use has some type of effect on the space, like the space and time that we exist in, and it's plausible that the constant tearing at that fabric has created slightly different outcomes that we than what previously existed. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not really even a big believer. If I'm honest, I think a lot of the narratives about space, for example, are complete crap. Uh, a lot of
Are
people.
you a flat earther?
No, but I actually don't think the current model of the Earth is accurate.
Okay.
How
Um,
so?
some of the inconsistencies I've seen, specifically from NASA. For example, some of the videos I've seen of the International Space Station, where they're live streaming a video, and I'll literally and they'll hold up penny, like a penny will drop out of a guy's like out of a guy's pocket and fall on the floor. Or where you can see a video of a guy straight up just on a harness in the background of the live stream. Or do you guys remember when Elon Musk sent that Tesla car with the spaceman on it into space and he live streamed it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have
and he
video
said he
evidence
said it
that
looks so
entire
real.
thing was fake. I have video evidence of
That's
the
crazy.
of the green screen background projector that they used on how they rotated it around to make it look like it was basically
Orbiting.
going around the Earth. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff around space is really fake. You always see these pop science articles coming out about, oh, we found a new exoplanet, 53 million light years away. That's going to be the new home for humanity. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, they update it and say, oh, well, actually, we thought the planet was there based on light, certain type of wavelength that we perceived that we thought could be from a sun that supports a planet like that, but we were wrong. Never mind. Or you guys see this literally every week. Some new meteor is going to destroy the Earth. That one's always the fun one when they always tell you that some new meteors, the Mars-sized meteor, gonna hit the Earth. Meteor the size of the one that killed the dinosaurs is gonna hit the Earth, and they do this every single week. And it's just crap. It's a joke. It's literally like a sick joke they play on you.
Bait.
Um, if
Clickbait.
but to finish, one of the biggest things that made me completely doubt a lot of the narrative space was NASA's official position on the moon landing. NASA's and I have the videos. NASA's current position is that they cannot recreate the technology that sent them to the moon the first time. That doesn't make any sense. And secondly, you cannot go and find original footage of the moon landing. They said that that because of budget issues, they had to reuse tape, and they taped over the logs of the original moon landing, which is, to me, I just don't even understand how that was even approved. And I understand that videotape was more expensive back then, obviously, than it is now. But I don't understand where you didn't have enough money during the height of the space race to get some more tape, so you wouldn't have to go over what is considered one of the greatest American accomplishments. I just don't really understand it at all. That doesn't make any sense. There's been documentaries with people asking NASA scientists about intricacies of how to live within the space pods that they were sent to the moon. You'll hear a lot of contradictions. Um, I've just seen some really goofy stuff from the NASA guys. I think honestly they're all incompetent, and there's a reason Elon Musk has just thrown money at SpaceX and been able to just completely dwarf them in presence. But even then, I just don't think any of those things are real. It is interesting to me that a lot of the pictures of satellites are artist renditions or CGI. Um, and the International Space Station is not in outer space like they tell you. That, the common picture you see of the ISS is that it's like, far out. It's within the thermosphere of the Earth's atmosphere. It's not really that far out. To even call it the ISS is kind of a joke. And a lot of the live streams they do are ridiculous. I mean, just the flops that you've had. It's bad. I don't really believe a lot of the stuff they say about space. Dark matter is another thing that's just completely fake. Billions and billions of dollars spent trying to find that stuff. They can't. So I personally don't
But
believe. I'm not
but
a flat earther though. I don't think the Earth's a disc in the space, not a pizza.
but
But I think it's an oblate spheroid of some type.
I don't know, but Tucker Carlson says that space aliens exist.
Yeah, but Tucker Carlson
Said
also wears
last
that
week.
little Wailing Wall bracelet that they give you in Jerusalem. So I don't really. And his dad worked for the CIA in international affairs. So um, yeah, that's another thing. The space aliens. I mean, dude, can we see the videos? Can we? And I don't want the Pentagon's little black pixel coming across the screen.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell me anything. I want to see the Martians. They keep telling me they
Yeah,
have
kind
the
of like
bodies. Can I see the Martians?
yeah, exactly. Kind of like like if you watch Christmas Vacation, I saw it the other day at the end, where you can see the tape of the Santa Claus like flying in the air.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
like that, yeah.
No, it's a joke. I mean, and it is interesting that the aliens that people are reporting seeing are like the ones in the movies. They'll say, "Oh, they have like big heads and black eyes and they're gray." I mean, dude, what type of joke are we playing on people? Are you serious?
Well, there's actually this theory that actually say that Aleister Crowley
Yes,
mentioned that these
Iwas.
gray people,
Yep, I know about
yeah,
it. Iwas. Yep.
and it's that these creatures are a representation of angels or demons that actually negotiated with the Vatican in exchange for their soul. In the sense that they make our life miserable, the elites make our life miserable to for us to release negative energy, negative feelings. These beings they feed on our negative energy, and in exchange they provide with technology. That's the narrative.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up for
I
our
don't know.
viewers. You got to see this, Josh. It's Aleister
Yeah, go ahead.
Crowley is
Do it,
literally
please.
where we got the rendition of like the Gray, which is the gray alien you see in the fiction movies. It comes from this. Okay, so
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley, for people who don't know, actually, I'm glad you brought this up, Mario. I'm a big expert on this. I've listened to countless hours of stuff and looked into it.
Well,
Aleister,
before you
Uh,
continue, let
yeah.
me say something before you continue. I see you are a man of culture as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up for our viewers, but I'll send it to you in the chat as well, Josh, so you can see, guys. If you guys don't know who
We,
Aleister Crowley is, Aleister Crowley is the most influential and famous occultist in world history. It's not even close. When he was born, and this is from his own account, he spoke as a demon to his mother, and he was called the Beast. He would torture animals and people as a child, as much as he can, and he was very into the dark and demonic, as he describes himself as a child. Eventually, he went to Egypt. He spent some time in Egypt and communed with some of the ancient deities that the Egyptians worshipped, and he says during this time, this was in the early 1900s, he came across a
he
being
was a
called.
contemporary of Oscar Wilde.
He was, and he also helped the CIA, but that's a whole other thing. Um, he during his
Let's
time in
discuss it later. We are
Egypt, yeah,
actually in closing times.
yeah, but we're
So
pushing it for you guys because I like this topic. Um,
yeah,
to summarize, when he was in
we
Egypt,
could go on.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
can go on for just a little
yeah.
bit if you need to.
Josh is sending in the chat by the way, so you can look at that thing. Um,
Okay.
while he was in Egypt, he communed. He said, and during one of his seances, he communed with a entity known as Iwas, which was an Egyptian deity that he claimed was reaching out to him to give him forbidden knowledge. And Iwas basically communed with him, gave him all this information, and he developed basically a cult around this, around the stuff he got. um, One of the things that came out of Crowley was this concept of automatic writing, where you would, at a certain time, at a certain position, you would sit at a desk and let an entity take over your body, and it would use your hand to write. It's what it could not get you to write for it, and it was something he used to create a lot of his writings. I mean, the dude was weird. He basically thought you could achieve godhood through ultimate degeneracy, being as sinful as possible, and being as rejective of the holy God to the maximum. So and as a matter of fact, Aleister Crowley is in a way the father of the MK Ultra project. The
yes.
MI6 as well as the CIA contacted him to help them with psychedelic use, and communion for his for their MK Ultra project. He was the guy who gave them all the techniques and information they needed to experiment on American citizens. A lot of people don't know this, but this is documented. They admitted that they requested his help for this project during its early stages. So he's like Kissinger in a way, but even more lesser known.
Darker.
Influential.
Much darker, much darker. He was just a straight up Satanist occultist. He openly said so as much. Weird guy. I mean, if you guys want something interesting to go into, though, Aleister Crowley is up the alley. But he was into some weird stuff. Um, he
There was a lot of there's actually a lot of inventions surrounding him just for the sake of, because he was as flamboyant as he could be.
Yep.
I mean, he was a contemporary of Oscar Wilde in the sense that they were the first rock stars to make money out of being themselves. Also, there's a lot of speculation around him that he actually fostered himself. Not all those things he said. I mean, although some of the things he said are true, he was a nasty piece of work. There were also a lot of things that he actually fostered just for the sake of his own fame and his own aggrandizing. In a way, he was the first the Kardashian. Imagine a Kardashian, but with with psychic powers or some sorts.
Yeah, very very weird individual, but very interesting. There's never been an individual like him in history. He really was set apart in his own way. But you're right, a lot of the stuff he that we know about him, the weird stuff is stuff he claimed. But we also have writings from other people and documents from other people that kind of corroborate some of the weird stuff he was into. I mean, it's undeniable
Yes,
though. The
yes.
dude wasn't a cultist; he was a Satanist. Um, and really not a Satanist in like the Luciferian way where you worship yourself. He quite literally worshipped other deities and communed with what he believed to be
Many
other
of
deities.
the, as I understand, he developed many of the modern rituals that we know about summoning
Yep.
entities.
Yep.
He was his invention. There's actually many books in the occult that are actually serious scientific work in the sense that they follow the scientific method.
Yeah, they do.
In the sense that, okay, we have this, we have this, we have this, we do this, we get this result, and they explain why. Like tuck 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 tuck, and they actually make a lot of sense. Those who are interested in the occult, go into this guy. I remember his name, E.A. Coeting. I mean, if he's one of the moderns, said he's around our age. E.A. Coeting. I'm gonna write it here so you can look for him. Coeting. I think this is his name. E.A. Coeting. I'm gonna write it down here so you can look for him. He's a very good writer. There, E.A. Coeting. He knows his shit, and many of the things he explains with a lot of authority how reality functions and how to manipulate it. There's this guy, and there is this other guy whose name is Peter Carroll. Both are English. These are the guys of my choice in the sense that they know their shit and they don't make qualms about it. If you wish, you can search them and read them. They are actually interesting reads.
Probably his most famous work is the Book of the Law, which was
Yes.
sent. It was basically the sacred test of his religion, Thelema. And again, this was he claimed was dictated to him by Iwas. So it's basically like a perverted Bible. That's the best way I could really describe it. It's very goofy. It's a lot about basically self worship. So you should not follow it. It's not didn't end well for him, but yeah, he was really into weird stuff. He was also very into Kabbalah, if anybody knows what that is, which is Talmudic
It's the
magic.
Jewish.
Yeah, it's a Talmudic
Yes.
magic. So he wrote an entire book about it. It's called 777. So you should if you're interested in the history of the occult, he's a perfect place to start.
Oh, by the way, I got something for you. I think I just gave it to you, but this is for the audience. There is this. Do you remember back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s? There was this gory page called Rotten.com.
No. I've heard of it,
Okay,
though. I've heard
Josh,
of
do
it,
you know that?
Who?
Rotten.com.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was during the John Titor time. Yeah, that was the infancy of the internet. Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, Rotten.com back in the beginning of the 2000s, when the internet was still the Wild West, and you can get away with a lot of shit. A website appeared called Rotten.com that featured a lot of weird, gory shit.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Faces of Death. Yeah, like that
yes.
movie Faces of Death during the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
And
But it was
at
online.
one point, I just browsing around, of course, like any 20-something with plenty of time would do. I found out that actually Rotten.com had a library of very, very interesting topics on it. So, for those who wish, I mean, I'm going to before presenting it to the public, I will give it to you so you can give me your opinion about it, and maybe we don't step in too many toes. We may tell the public where to get it, but you definitely should check it out because there's a lot of weird and interesting articles that I held responsible for my increasing of my IQ points. I realized that I was not the same person after reading. And I remember back in 2003, when I was around 22 years old, I spent 3 months going to cybercafes, spending $1 an hour reading those articles for 3 months nonstop. Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. About things like MK Ultra, the flat earth, sacred geometry, Aleister Crowley. Anyway, I know we are just we are way about our closing time. So, if you wish, closing thoughts, and we'll just call it a day. Josh, if you wish.
Sounds good. No, I mean, like we had a good discussion. Like I said, we went in a lot of different topics. Like I said, we want to stick to like red pill men's issues, MGTOW, some politics. And this is kind of the standard of like how our podcast is like, we try to flow it as best as we can to segue into different topics, but like I said, it's good for anybody else. And like I said in the comments, if you want to timestamp, when we're talking about certain things, that'd be great. If not, I'll do it later. But yeah, those that are interested, to where we're topics that we get into. But this is just basically it's a space for us to kind of talk about different things, around that men talk about. You know what I mean? It's a men's show, so. Yep.
Punish Gusano, any closing thoughts?
Don't do anything Aleister Crowley did. He's in hell, so.
That's a very wise advice. For anything, it's been actually, the funny thing is that the best moments are the closing moments. Like when we are just 10 minutes away from closing, and it's like some great topic appears, and we started going into it, and we lose track of time. But yes, don't do anything Aleister Crowley did. Be nice to your parents. Like and subscribe. Remember,
Don't torture animals.
Oh. No.
Don't forget to also write anything, collaborate with us. I mean, recommend us something to talk about. We do this show for you. We wouldn't exist because of you. So in all that, we'll see you next Friday. Be nice, be well, be in love with yourself and the world. Make bank, go to the gym, don't do drugs, or at least, well, you get the idea. And from then on, I'll see you. We'll see you, God willing, next Friday.
Don't be gay.
8 o'clock Miami
Like
time.
and subscribe, or you're gay. We don't make the rules.
Like
God
and
make the
subscribe
rules.
if you're gay. And if you're gay, still like and subscribe.
Absolutely.